What's up, CFBS fam? So, we've been going through the whole education for the past couple of weeks, all right? Now, what we're gonna talk about is the 9 foundational movements from CrossFit. Now, one thing I wanna make clear about these 9 movements, these are not the only 9 movements we do in CrossFit, right? This does not mean that these are the most important movements in CrossFit, but they're the most foundational movements in CrossFit. They transfer the best in everything else that we do in CrossFit. If you learn how to do these 9 movements properly, everything else that we do in CrossFit will start to feel a lot better for you, and you will understand why these 9 foundational movements are the 9 foundational movements, all right? Now, these 9 movements have been broken down into 3 series. You have your squat series, your press series, and your deadlift series. Today, we're gonna talk about your squat series. Each series has 3 movements in them. Those 3 movements build off each other, all right? In the squat series, your 3 movements are your air squat, your front squat, and your overhead squat. Now, the most foundational movement of all the 9 you can say is your air squat. If you can sit down and sit up, you're able to move in this world. But we want to make sure we're doing it the right way when you come into a gym, right? So essentially, there are 5 points of performance that we are looking for when it comes to your air squat. If you're able to hit these 5 points of performance, you are performing a safe, efficient, and an effective air squat. Those 5 points of performance are that weight is on your heels, your knees are tracking over your pinky toes, your hips are below your knees, you are maintaining a nice neutral back, and you are initiating your squat with your hips first. If you do those 5 things on a consistent basis, you will get very, very strong with your air squat. Now, if you're able to hit that air squat real well, we will then progress to the next movement, which is your front squat, all right? Now we're adding some external loading to it, mostly in the frontal position, right? You're gonna be in a nice front rack position. So we're gonna take those 5 points of performance from the air squat. They're gonna transfer over to your front squat, so you'll be able to perform a sound air squat. Now we're gonna see how you're able to perform with your front squat with those 5 plus 2 more points of performance. And those 2 points of performance that are additional are a sound front rack position, meaning that the bar is on your shoulders, elbows are nice and high, and it's sitting on your fingertips. And that you maintain that front rack position from beginning to the middle to the bottom, back all the way up. The next point of performance is that you maintain that barbell over the middle of your foot. That is known as your frontal plane, okay? So we want to make sure that we are knocking those 2 additional points of performance as well. If you're able to do that well, great. We'll then progress to your third movement, which is your overhead squat. That is your most complex squatting movement. It is very, very challenging. You've been doing CrossFit long enough, you know how challenging an air squat is. But in all honesty, you want to assess somebody's flexibility, you want to assess somebody's athleticism, have them do an overhead squat. An overhead squat will tell you a lot of where an athlete is, all right? We are putting a lot of work on their upper back, which is something a lot of athletes don't want to work on, right? But that's what limits a lot of individuals when it comes to their overhead squat. They're able to perform some air squats well. They're able to perform a front squat pretty well. But when you see them go into their overhead squat, it changes the game for them. We are still looking at those 5 points of performance that we talked about the air squat. Heels, knees, hips, depth, and line of action. We're still looking at those 5. But what gets very, very challenging for athletes is that overhead position now with that barbell, right? So we're looking for those 5 with additional of 2 more. A sound overhead rack position, and again, the barbell is over the middle of your foot. What does a sound overhead position look like? We are driving through our shoulders, elbows are pointed down, and we are keeping this barbell above my head the whole time. As I am squatting, you're pressing up, pulling back, maintaining that nice frontal plane that we talked about over the middle of your foot, all right, or balance, okay? So that is what we're looking for when it comes to your three squatting movements: your air squat, your front squat, and your overhead squat. You learn how to do those three squatting movements well, every other squat position that we do in CrossFit will be sound. All right, but also those three transfer the best to everything else that we do, whether it's wall ball shots, whether it's squat cleans, whether it's squat snatches, whether it's single arm dumbbell work. These movements transfer the best. Thrusters, right? So again, that is why these three are the three foundational squatting movements. All right. If you have any questions over these three movements, please let me know. Next week we will talk about your three press movements.